Hi everybody, Ricky here from Behind the Bars TV and welcome to my channel. In this episode I'm going to be talking about getting released as a Category A prisoner. Now a lot of people who watch me content and watch other prison content, especially when I've spoke about the likes of Bronson before, and when everyone had the hopes built up thinking that he was going to be getting released, and me and a few of the lads that have been to prison when I've done the podcast with Kevin Lane, and was said that he'll not be getting released as a Category A prisoner. And some of those people were putting in the comments and saying, well, he can't get released as a Category A prisoner because people do get released. But the difference is between lifers and people who's doing a fixed term sentence. A fixed term sentence is, say, someone gets a 15-year sentence and you serve half of that sentence, you get a release date. So whatever happens whilst you're in prison, you've got that release date unless you get time added on. But you're still going to get a release date if you're a fixed term prisoner. So if you don't get downgraded to Category B or Category C throughout your sentence, which a lot of prisoners don't, especially obviously the ones in the high security prisons. I met a lot of them in prison and they got released from maximum security prison and as Category A prisoner. But the difference is they were serving a fixed term sentence. So if you come to the end of your sentence, you've got a few weeks left on your sentence, you're still a Category A prisoner, no matter what. Didn't matter if you were still double Cat A or high risk Category A, which is double Cat A, you're still getting released because you've got a release date. Whereas a lifer, now there's different terms of lifers. You've got discretionary life sentence, you've got 2 straight life sentences, you've got the IPP, which is the same as a life sentence. Obviously, you've got the life without parole, the ones that are never getting out. But all of these will not be released if you are a Category A prisoner. If you come up on the parole board as a Category A prisoner and you're serving a life sentence, you won't get released. But if you come up for your release date as a Category A prisoner, no matter what, they have to release you. But what normally happens is if you're getting released as a Category A prisoner, you'll have tight license conditions unless you're in serving the remainder of your license and you're getting out without any license. Then there's nothing they can do. You walk out them gates and that's you on the prison service and probation service finished with. There's nothing more they can do with you. That's you and them over and done with unless you get further sentences. But when you walk out the gates as a Category A prisoner on a fixed term and you've got a long license ahead of you, you will be going to a hostel. And a probation hostel is a bit like what we call a halfway house. And this is where they go to try and reintegrate you back into society. And a lot of the time, people don't survive in the hostels because a lot of the time the hostels set you up to fail. You might be in prison, someone who's been in for years on end, 5, 6, 7, 10 years. You've been training flat out, you've been eating good food, because in the high security prisons you can buy your own food. You might have been training flat out, you're surrounded by like-minded people, you've got your own little circle. Then you get released as a Category A prisoner after 10 years, you get put into a hostel and you're surrounded by druggies, drug addicts, smackheads, subby heads, just being released from prison. Some of them haven't even been to prison, they've been to courts, they've got nowhere to live, so they get put in the hostel. And this is the type of things that people getting released from prison have got to face, Category A prisoners. Imagine going straight from a high security prison with like-minded men like that. You're all, even though you're crazy because you're in prison for crazy things, but you're half sensible, you've got your own little circle. You get released from there, straight into a hostel, surrounded by drug addicts, people coming in to your rooms, trying to pinch stuff from you, people going in mortal drunk, and they've got to put up with this sort of environment, which they find extremely hard, and not a lot of them survive it. They end up going back to prison. They either end up fucking off from the hostel, or they turn around. I know some of them have even walked back to the prison late at night, so they break the curfew. So you see they've got to be in at 7, 8 o'clock on the curfew in the hostel. They've walked either to the police station or walked back to the prison and said, listen, I can't be dealing with that. Put us back in there. and they've went back in until they've getting released again, where they've went back to a home environment, or they've went and served the remainder of the license because they cannot handle being around people like that. I'm not being judgmental about drug addicts or anything like that, about the ones that are in these hostels, but having to go and live with these type of people when you're not involved with anything like that is very difficult for category A prisoners to adjust to. And that's why they've got the Bs, Cs, and Ds to try and recategorize them and reintroduce them. Because when you go from the Cat A's to the Cat Bs are a lot similar to the Cat A prisons. Cat A's are can be very volatile and dangerous, and they are very violent and dangerous places. And so are the Cat Bs. And when you get downgraded and go to a Cat C, then you're mixing with like a different class of prisoner and you're sort of getting adjusted to it. Then you go to a Cat D, which is even different again, because there's only the well-behaved prisoners or the ones with short sentences or the ones that's lifers. They've been in a long time. So a lot of the people in the Cat D prisons, which is an open prison, are a lot more, as you could see, level-headed. So as you're progressing down through the categories, you're sort of adjusting to the different environments ready for release. Because getting released as a category A prisoner, even if you didn't go to a hostel, straight back out into society after being in for 10 years, 15 years, it's going to be a massive culture shock. So even though they're still category A, they keep them as category A in the prisons because they're saying they're that violent, or they've got that much of a reputation, or because of the crime they're in for. But yet they just release them straight onto the street, which you cannot really see the sense in it. They should reducing them or recategorizing them down to the category B and then C to slowly reintegrate them and let them out from there, rather than letting them straight out from a high security prison as a category A inmate. But like I say, a lot of the time, the prison sentences and the way it's handled, it just doesn't make any sense. They won't recategorize you in prison and put you in a low category prison because they see you're a risk, but then they'll release you straight onto the streets. So if you're a risk in prison and they won't downgrade you to B or C, but then they're going to release you straight into the streets, there's just no logic in that, and it doesn't make any sense. But the purpose of this video was just to clarify to people about getting released as a category A prisoner or ex-prisoner, because as soon as you walk out the gate, you're no longer a prisoner, you're an ex-prisoner. You still get branded as a prisoner, and it lasts for a long time. Even after you get out of prison, you're still tarnished with that. Even you might be sentenced, might be up, you're an ex-prisoner, but in the eyes of some people, they still call you a prisoner and treat you like a prisoner. And category A ex-prisoners will find it the toughest getting out from that environment, straight out into society, or even more so into a hostel, a halfway house. But again, lifers will not be released as category A. It just will not happen. The parole board have, I will clarify this as well, the parole board have got the power to do that. If you're on a board, they've got the power to do anything, the parole board. They can release you as a category A prisoner on a life sentence. But I've never heard of it. And anyone that's ever been to prison that'll have come across lifers, I'll never have heard of it. You'll not even get released as a category B lifer unless, say, you've been IPP and you've been in a long time and you were supposed to go to a Cat D prison. You couldn't get to that Cat D prison because the prisons were full. Then they might release you from Cat B straight into a hostel to reintegrate you that way. But you will not be released as a category A lifer. Only category A fixed term prisoners can be released straight from a high security prison. But anyways, I'll leave that one there for now, people. Hopefully you enjoyed that content. Remember to like and subscribe. Take care.